Good Friday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Kent Erdahl. Heads up if you're heading out today. We've got a shot at storms moving through the metro, so our KARE 11 weather team is issuing a KARE 11 weather impact alert. Now, nothing crazy is expected from this storm, but we could see rain a few times and for a few hours, including at the Minnesota State Fair. We'll check in with our weather team in just a little bit. Now, if you're heading to the State Fair today, here's a look at severe weather shelters on the grounds. You can also find it on the Minnesota State Fair website if you want to see it for yourself. Of course, if there's light showers, fair reps say any buildings will do for shelter. There are plenty to choose from with vendors and exhibits all over the place. Hard to say right now if today's forecast will put a damper on anything out there, though. New this afternoon, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey speaking out for the first time since the state DFL revoked the Minneapolis DFL endorsement of his mayoral competitor, State Senator Omar Fateh.
Well, there's nothing that's uniting about an unfair process. I haven't heard any of them argue that the process was fair. I haven't heard anybody argue that it's the right thing to do to not count hundreds of votes. I mean, we're not talking about hundreds of votes out of millions that weren't counted. We're not talking about hundreds of votes out of thousands that weren't counted. We're talking about hundreds of votes out of hundreds of votes that weren't counted.
The DFL says it found substantial failures in the voting process at its convention where Fateh won the endorsement. This means he will not be able to take advantage of DFL resources during his campaign. Fateh responded in a statement writing, "The establishment is threatened by our message. They are scared of a politics that really stands up to corporate interests and with our working class neighbors." The Minneapolis DFL is now barred from endorsing any candidate in the race this year. New details this afternoon on a nasty crash overnight in Robbinsdale. 5 people were hurt after a police chase. Police say around 2 this morning, officers noticed a vehicle speeding and tried to pull it over. But they say the vehicle then took off and officers chased, eventually catching up and performing a pit maneuver that sent the vehicle off the roadway and into a tree. 5 people were taken to the hospital. Officers say they found the narcotics and open containers in the vehicle. Happening right now, a train crash is disrupting public transit in Coon Rapids. Authorities say a northbound North Star commuter train struck a car and was stopped on the tracks in Coon Rapids this morning. The driver was transported to the hospital. The driver was transported to the hospital. As I said, temporary bus service for commuters is available for those commuters while the crash is under investigation. Hurricane Erin is moving further away from the northeast U.S., but high tides and flooding continue to impact coastal communities. Cars were seen driving through high water in Maryland, New Jersey, and Philadelphia. Locals say the storm was worse than expected. Nikki Dementri has the story.
Flooding took over parts of Ocean City Thursday night. This is video from after high tide, which happened just before 8. Water went up to the front doors of several businesses, swallowed parking lots, and even closed some roads. Neighbors near 25th Street and West Avenue say the area typically floods during high tides, but Hurricane Erin brought more water from the back bays quicker to the area. Tom and Sophia Russo live a block away.
We just came from the beach where the water is all the way almost to the front of the dunes, quite frankly. And so we want to walk down here and see how bad this was. This is a little bit worse than I thought it was going to be at this point.
Ocean City Beach Patrol shared this drone video showing the rough seas. While the boardwalk was certainly crowded, the beach wasn't completely empty for the majority of the early evening. No swimming is allowed here. We saw lifeguards certainly enforce that off of 14th Street.
I'm a lifeguard. I can stare at the ocean all day, even if there's no people in it. I do think that nature is beautiful and our oceans and beaches are beautiful. I just don't want anybody to go in. That's it.
I haven't been to the beach at all. It's been disgusting down here. I want to go surfing. The waves are insane. I'm going to get wiped out if I even try to go surfing.
Category 1 storm, but that does not mean that everything is safe and clear. Erin is still producing rough seas, causing dangerous conditions in several areas along the East Coast. Developing today, a child is in critical condition after a hit and run in Eden Prairie. It happened just before 8:30 last night at the intersection of Mitchell Road and Chestnut Drive. Police say a woman is walking in the crosswalk with 4 young children, pulling 2 of them in a wagon when a white car drove through them and left. The woman and one of the children are expected to be okay, but one child is in critical condition. Police are asking anyone with information to call 911. Happening right now, Wall Street is riding high after comments from the Federal Reserve Chair signaling he's ready to cut interest rates again. Jerome Powell made the comments at the Fed's economic policy event in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, adding that the nation's labor market might benefit from lower rates.
The effects of tariffs on consumer prices are now clearly visible. We expect those effects to accumulate over coming months with high uncertainty about both timing and amounts. The question that matters for monetary policy is whether these price increases are likely to materially raise the risk of an ongoing inflation problem. Nonetheless, with policy in restrictive territory, the baseline outlook and the shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance.
President Trump has berated Powell and the Federal Reserve for months for not cutting interest rates. Despite that, during Friday's speech, Powell reaffirmed that Fed officials will make their decisions in response to economic data, not political forces. Developing today, FBI agents were seen entering the Maryland home and the office of former National Security Advisor John Bolton early this morning. The FBI saying the raids are part of a national security investigation. Bolton served as an ambassador to the United Nations under President George W. Bush. Bolton also served as a national security advisor to President Trump during his first administration. But after a political fallout between the two in 2019, he has been a stark critic of Trump. Earlier this morning, President Trump said he didn't know about the raids, but expects the FBI to do their job.
No, I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does, but he worked out great for me.
We're learning more about the report that a long-closed correctional facility in Appleton, Minnesota could become an immigration detention center. New documents from within the Trump administration highlight its plan to open more immigrant detention centers by the end of the year. Now, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency is seeking to reopen the Appleton facility, which was Minnesota's only private prison before it closed in 2010. Jennifer Hoff is getting answers about what this effort could mean for people who live there.
Sandwiched between soy and a cemetery is a place some people also thought was long dead.
The more recent news is probably the best traction that we've seen or heard.
Eddie Massey is the town banker, born and raised in Appleton, but admits it's on life support since the area's largest employer closed.
It shuts down your housing market. The ripple effect was felt tremendously.
Except new documents from within the Trump administration show the privatized Prairie Correctional Facility could reopen by year's end as it expands its immigrant detention centers, a plan the Washington Post confirmed this week.
I think they do want to have more kind of localized detention centers where they can actually just increase the number of interior arrests in the Minnesota area and have somewhere to keep them.
Congress recently approved $45 billion for detention centers, more than the last 3 administrations combined.
Looking at that kind of slice of spending tells you a lot about how serious they are about their plans and how much support they have for this plan in Washington.
This facility closed 15 years ago, and since then the state legislature has banned operating private prisons, but there's no federal law against that. And the prison's owners telling me today that they are exploring opportunities here. Core Civic says it still maintains the property that can house 1,600 people, and the city of Appleton confirms the owner is pursuing a contract with ICE, but still Massey is skeptical.
We'd really like to see it turn into something that is more permanent or has some teeth that people can have a comfort in moving out here and taking these jobs.
Trying to turn a town around and breathe new life into it.
And the community banker in me cares about the community and wants what's best for the community.
In Appleton, Jennifer Hoff, KARE 11 News.
Well, developing today, a massive recall on some frozen shrimp now also affects Minnesota. The FDA says the shrimp manufactured by Southwind Foods is possibly contaminated with radioactive material. They were sold in 9 states under several brand names between July 17th and August 8th. If you have these products, you're asked to throw them out. The recall comes just days after Walmart's Great Value brand of frozen shrimp was recalled for the same reason. We're learning more that 2 separate reports of shootings at college campuses in Pennsylvania and Tennessee yesterday turned out to be fake. Students at both the University of Villanova and the University of Tennessee received an alert yesterday warning them of an active shooter on those campuses. But the situations were cleared after authorities found no evidence indicating a threat to the public. The president of the University of Villanova said the report was, quote, a cruel hoax. Today, the Department of Justice will begin releasing some of the Epstein files to lawmakers. The previously unreleased files are connected to the investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It comes after the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed the DOJ for the records and testimony. Epstein was found dead in his jail cell while awaiting trial for sex trafficking charges. His death was ruled a suicide. Lawmakers say they'll make the files public after reviewing the redactions to protect victims' privacy. Amy Kiley has more.
It is movement in the right direction.
The Justice Department is set to start releasing files on Jeffrey Epstein to the House Oversight Committee today. That's according to the committee's chair, Representative James Comer. The Republican says the panel will ensure redactions protect victims and ongoing cases. Then Comer says the committee plans to make the files public.
We're going to review and we'll work as quickly as we can. This is sensitive information.
Today's anticipated release is a response to lawmaker subpoenas. In this July memo, the Justice Department argues further disclosure isn't appropriate. It says the files contain sensitive information about victims. A Democrat on the Oversight Committee says he doesn't think victims are whom the DOJ is protecting.
Why are rich and powerful men who abused young girls being protected? And what group is it that's so powerful that they have a hold on the United States government that we can't release this information?
Representative Ro Khanna says he doubts the Trump administration will turn over all the documents today. He predicts it'll drag out the process. The brother of an Epstein accuser says he's worried about that too. He says he's advocating for his sister, who took her own life this year.
All we're asking these people to do is the right thing. That's all that she ever asked for, was just to do the right thing.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Happening today, Lyle Menendez is in front of a California parole board in efforts to make his case for release. It comes less than a day after his brother, Eric, was denied parole in a separate hearing. The brothers were convicted of murdering their parents in 1989 after years of abuse. Earlier this year, a judge found that the men don't pose an unreasonable risk to society, giving them a chance at parole. A final decision will be up to California Governor Gavin Newsom. Stick with us. More news and weather's coming up right after the break.